All right, Shalom, giving all praises and glory to our power Yahweh. Bahasham Yahushua, Bahasham Chakodash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and wherever you may be. Wherever you may be, Shalom, Yeshua, Shalom. All right, this is Exodus chapter 4, pretty much a continuation of chapter 3, where we had Moses being called out from the burning bush. All right, so it says Moses given powers. All right, verse 1 says, And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice. Now, this is going into, well, when you go into our last session in chapter 3, the Lord was telling Moses that, I'm going to send you into Egypt unto Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go. His people being the Israelites, all right? So it says, Unto my voice, for they will say that Yahweh, the Lord Yahweh, hath not appeared unto thee. And this is talking about to his own people, all right? Going back to his own people, because in the last chapter he asks, who will I tell them that sent me, all right? He says, I am that I am sent unto thee, all right? Just roughly paraphrasing. And so that's where we go into the name of Yahweh, all right? Yah in the Hebrew means he. Hawa means is or exist, right? He is, he exists, right? Yahweh. And he says, that is my name for generations. So verse 2 says, And Yahweh said unto him, What is it? What is that in thine hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. Now this is talking about just a regular serpent, because this word serpent here in the Hebrew, what he said right there, nachash, right? It goes back to the root word nachash, which means to practice divination. That's not the definition here, all right? This is talking about a basic, serpent or snake, all right? So it says, and it became a nachash, a serpent, and Moses fled from before it, all right? Because I'm pretty sure he wasn't expecting it, because it was just, a normal rod, right? A walking stick, staff, whatever. Let's see what it says. Yep, see, staff, rod, all right? So there you go. The company led by chief with staff originally. So pretty much, he had a staff in his hand. So he threw the staff down, and the staff turned into a snake, a serpent. And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. And Yahweh said unto Moses, Put forth thine hand, and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand, and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that the Lord Yahweh, power of their fathers, the power of Abraham, the power of Isaac, and the power of Jacob had appeared unto thee. Right. So this is the sign that he said he was gonna have to give to the other Israelites to believe that our power has actually come unto Moses, right? And spoke with him. So it says, and Yahweh said furthermore unto him, Put now thine hand into thy bosom. All right. And I mean, we don't really need to get the word bosom. It's pretty much be straightforward there. Right, bosom hollow, bottom mist. So didn't give us much anyways. I mean, you can Google that. Bosom, right? A woman's chest, or a friend, close or intimate, right? You see, the space between a person's clothing and chest used for carrying things, all right? So we know he wasn't a woman, so it wasn't talking about in between his breast, okay? So as it said here, the space between a person's clothing and chest used for carrying things. So, I mean, pretty much straightforward understanding there. So it says, matter of fact, let's see what it reads in another translation. That'll be interesting. Verse 6, Then the Lord Yahweh said to Moses, Now put your hand inside your cloak. You see, there you go. The definition right there, as we just read it. Put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out again, his hand was white as snow with a severe skin disease. All right, so bam. Let's see what the AMP reads. Gotta get the AMP. All right. Yahweh also said to him, Put your hand into your robe where it covers your chest. So he put his hand into his robe, and when he took it out, his hand was leprous, as white as snow. Bam. See, that's straightforward there, man. Can't make it up. So when it says in his bosom, it wasn't talking about like, he stuck his hand actually inside his body. All right. It's just that it was like a now you see me, now you don't type of thing, Not saying he was a magician, but something like you might see a magician do, all right, with a card trick or something. You know, his hand obviously brown, whatever tone of brown he was, all right, stuck it inside, And where obviously you couldn't see his hand inside the cloak, and then when he pulled it back out, there you have it. All right. So it wasn't talking about actually putting his hand inside of his body, which I mean wouldn't have been any less the miracle though. But it says, and Yahweh said furthermore unto him, put now thy hand into thy bosom, and put his hand, and he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. All right, leprous. All right, where there is Tazarai, it says to be diseased of skin, be leprous, to be a leper, to have leprosy, which we're not going to get it, but leprosy is talked about later on, you know, in I believe it's like Leviticus or Numbers somewhere, right, where it talks about this, okay? But it says his hand was leprous as snow, where there's shalag, and just says snow, shalag, right? Snow to be a snow, but it's going to that leprosy there, all right, which shows you that he wasn't a pale man like the so-called white men like they keep trying to show you in different shows and movies and things of that nature, or even art, right? He wasn't a so-called white man because this wouldn't be possible here. All right, and people overlook this. This is a smaller one, but it's still a color aspect. Like when you go to scriptures that deal with color. All right, mainly some main ones that should pop in your mind is dealing with Yahweh Shah. All right, Daniel 10, Revelation 1. But this is a minor one too to show you that this guy is not a so-called white man. Okay, but anyways. Verse 7 says, and he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. What was this other flesh? All right, the normal skin tone, whatever dark brown snow skin color that he was. Where there's Bashar, flesh of the body, so on and so forth. All right, it's straightforward there. Because, of course, they're not going to give us a exact true color. But we know the Israelites were people of color, right? Different shades of brown. So it says, and as a matter of fact, that'll be a good one. Let's see what these other ones read. Let's go back to that AMP. What was that, verse 7? Then the Most High said, put your hand into your robe again. So he put his hand back into his robe, and when he took it out, it was restored as was like the rest of his body. There you go. See? Two-tone, brown and pale skin. See? Obviously the majority of his body was brown. Now put your hand back into your cloak, Yahweh said. So Moses put his hand back in, and when he took it out again, it was as healthy. Ooh, that's beautiful. As healthy as the rest of his body. All right, can't make that up. Verse 7. All right, it says it was turned again as his other flesh. Verse 8 says, and it shall come to pass if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, which was the staff turning into a serpent. All right, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign, all right, which is what we just talked about there, all right, the changing of his flesh. And let's get the word voice here, see what it says. Kowal, voice, sound, noise, sound is lightness, frivolity, proclamation. So there's not much that they really give us there on that one. Let me see here. And we've gone into the word sign before. I was going to hit another translation real quick. Yeah, proof, right? Proof is the main thing we can use there. Let's go back to NLT. Um, okay, it says, verse 8 says, Yahweh said to Moses, if they do not believe you and are not convinced by the first miraculous sign, they will be convinced by the second sign. So it's pretty much straightforward there. Just said it even in a more simple way. Verse 8 again, AMP, if they would not believe you or pay attention, to the evidence of the first sign, they may believe the evidence of the second sign. All right. So it's saying the same thing straightforward in different manners. So verse 9 says, and it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken to thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry. And what did I say earlier? I think I said, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I said something about going to the children of Israel, which you did have to go back to the children of Israel. I just thought about it. I believe I said that. but this is the signs before Pharaoh. So let me correct that. I believe I said that off. I know I was thinking about Israel, but these are the signs that he's supposed to show before Pharaoh. All right. Um, yeah, but let's continue. I want to make sure I corrected that. I don't know what I was thinking about. But anyways, yeah, it says, and it shall come to pass if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. All right. And this is the third miracle that Moses was supposed to perform. If the first wasn't, agreeable, the second was agreeable. But here's the third thing I want you to do. And Moses said unto Yahweh, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore. And we can get the word eloquent, right? The bar, speech, word, speaking, thing, saying, utterance, business, occupation, acts, manner, case, something, manner. We don't need that one though. All right. To speak, declare, converse, command, promise, warn, threaten. All right. To speak. So he's basically telling you that I'm not, such a great speaker. All right. He says, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech. All right. So I'm not good before you spoke to me, and I'm still not good now. All right. But I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. All right. What does that mean? Basically what we just spoke about. We can get it anyways. All right. Heavy, dull. All right. Very oppressive. Actually, we need that one. All right. So most of those are the same. All right. But anyways, as a matter of fact, we could probably read these in the NLT, verse 9 and 10. So it says, and if they don't believe you or listen to you, even after these two signs, then take some water from the Nile River and pour it out on the dry ground. When you do, the water from the Nile will turn to blood on the ground. But Moses pleaded with the Lord, Yahweh, O Lord, I'm not very good with words. There you go. I have never been and am not now, even though you have spoken to me, which we just mentioned. I get tongue tied, you see, and my words get tangled. All right. So he wasn't very good at speaking. Okay. Then the Lord Yahweh asked Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak? Hear or do not hear? See or do not see? Is it not I, Yahweh? Let's go back to the KJV. And it says, and Yahweh said unto him, who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or deaf or the seeing or the blind? Have not I, the Lord Yahweh? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. All right. I pray thee by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. So it says, and this is where Moses ends up making the Lord angry. All right. So it says Aaron to be Moses' mouthpiece. Verse 14 says, and the anger of the Lord Yahweh was kindled against Moses. And he said, and why was it kindled? It's because, the Lord already told him that, hey, I want you to go do this and say this, and I'm gonna be with you. I'm gonna pretty much have my spirit speak for you, okay? And he still, try to plead his way out of it. So it pissed the Lord off. So it says, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak. I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. Which is beautiful, because I always like how the Lord plans things out. It ain't like he didn't know it was going to happen. It's like, yeah, okay, so Aaron's your brother. He can speak well. And you know what? He's coming your way right now. This is amazing how the Lord always plays things out, right? It says, and thou shalt speak unto him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, and he shall be, even he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of God. All right. So basically, where the Lord was supposed to commune, and deal with Moses, and Moses was supposed to be the mouthpiece, because Moses, cried about his, bad speech. Uh, he pretty much set Moses up, as, a type of power. I'm not going to say like as God himself, but you get my point. What I'm trying to say, there's really no other way to say it. So you should get what I'm trying to say, as the Most High. You're right, to Aaron, right? Even to Pharaoh, because he says, I'm gonna make you God to Pharaoh, and then he made Aaron the mouthpiece, which is what Moses was supposed to do. All right, so he just slightly adjusted the roles there. So yeah, verse 17 says, and thou shalt take this rod in thine hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. All right, so his staff was very important. All right, so he was to keep that with him pretty much at all times, because he just said, this is how you're going to do these signs, all right, that you're going to be doing, on my behalf. And Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said unto him, let me remember this is the same as we read in the other chapter, Ruel, all right, Jethro, Ruel, same person, right? Me, a priest of Midian. It says his father-in-law, and said unto him, let me go, I pray thee. And remember, this father is his father-in-law because he took his daughter Zipporah, all right? So that made, Jethro Moses' father-in-law. So it says, let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren, which are in Egypt, all right? Because remember, he was pretty much, I guess you could say, in that household, for lack of better words, all right? That's where he was pretty much sojourning at for a while, okay? It says, and remember, it says also in, was chapter I believe it's top of chapter 3, all right? And Moses kept the flock of his father Jethro, his father-in-law, all right? Jethro, all right? So we know he had a job, all right, in Jethro's house. He wasn't just, hanging around, just, sitting on his hands or whatever, right? So it says, let me go, I pray thee. He's probably just earning his keep, pretty much, okay? So it says, I pray thee and return unto my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they be yet alive. And Jethro said to Moses, go in peace. All right, you might be wondering, why is he asking him? Well, for one, it's his father-in-law. Two, as we just mentioned, well, he had a job in his father-in-law's household, which is probably how he earned wages. And even if he didn't earn wages, he was most definitely earning his keep and just not, staying there, for whatever reason, just hanging around, doing nothing, looking at the flock all day. All right. He was actually, tending to the flock, okay, which is a reoccurring thing with our forefathers, man, our ancestors, all right, men of the field, all right, very good with cattle and things of that nature, okay. Verse 19 says, and Yahweh said unto Moses in Midian, go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life, all right. Going back to, I believe that was in chapter 1, all right, when he saw two Israelite men, arguing, with one another. Actually, that was afterwards. Before that, the first time, it was an Egyptian that was pretty much whipping on a Hebrew slave. All right, and Moses put the man to death and hit him in the sand. All right, so and those two men, I believe it was the next day, there was two Israelite men who were arguing, and Moses came up to see about the situation. Okay, just to make the story short, and pretty much one of those guys, probably the one that was in the wrong the way they were reading, but one of those guys, pretty much made it known that, hey, we know that you put that guy to death. All right. And that word spread all the way up to Pharaoh's ears, which is why Moses ran in the first place. Okay. So it says, and Yahweh said unto Moses in Midian, go return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life. And Moses took his wife and his sons and set them up on an ass, which is a donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of the Most High in his hand. All right. And Yahweh said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, and notice another thing, all right, his wife and his sons, right? He took his family with him. He didn't just go, roll out on a little journey there. Nah, he took his family with him, right? So verse 21 says, and Yahweh said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh. Basically what we just read, all right? Staff into the snake, hand into the bosom, and the water into blood, all right? So it says in that line, all right, 1, 2, and 3. You didn't believe this one, you believe the second one. Didn't believe the second one, all right, or the first two, I should say. And here, take number 3, all right? So it says, and Yahweh said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand, but I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go. All right. He says, I will, even after the signs, right? He says, I will harden his heart. Bear with me. I'm walking. All right. To strengthen, prevail, harden, be strong, become strong, be courageous, be firm, grow firm, be resolute, be sore. Most of those pretty much the same. Severe, be grievous. to make rigid, make firm. I'm sorry, make the way this say make firm. I mean say make hard. Um, get it, pretty much get it. And this same history here or portion of it was pulled out in the New Testament. I believe it was. I want to say it was Paul. All right, it was either Paul or Peter, but one of them spoke about for this purpose Pharaoh I have raised thee up. I want to say that was Paul or Peter. We're in the blue, so I'm not sure if we can actually get it. You know how the blue is. Let's see if I can punch it up for this purpose. It might come up. It may come up. It may come up. Yep, Acts 26. No, that's not the one I wanted. Okay, so it was Paul. I was right. It was Paul. Romans chapter 9. Okay, Romans chapter 9. And it says, verse 17 says, for the scripture said unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. All right, that was the purpose for the Lord, dealing with Pharaoh and the Egyptians the way he did. All right, pulling the plague, pulling back, pulling another plague, pulling back, and after every one of the plagues, Pharaoh say, you know what, get the hell out of here, and then he changes his mind, like, nah, you ain't going nowhere, sit down. Okay, so he kept constantly hardening Pharaoh's heart, basically beefing up his ego. Okay, just like Esau is doing now. And remember, Esau took over Egypt, right? So he's the modern day Pharaoh. All right. So he's pretty much beefing up their ego to make them think that they're gods and they're unstoppable and so on and so forth, only to show his power. All right. He's basically because, like we have to think around this time, the Egyptians were a powerhouse, right? With their reach and, and everything, their territories and things of that nature. Right. This was a great time of being a powerhouse for the Egyptians. So when you have someone like Pharaoh, all right, he thinks he's a god or whatever. So he's pretty much, the greatest leader at this time. And the Lord brought him down with some plagues and, really, crush that same ego that he allowed to be built up. So he can do what? Show his power, that there's nothing like him, greater than him, equal to him, or nothing like that, right? So the Lord can show his power and that people could fear. And that's exactly what happened. Afterwards, people were talking about, oh, we heard what you did to the Egyptians, right? So the same thing is going to happen to Esau when he takes him down, all right? It says, therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he harden it. Thou wilt say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? Yeah, every tattoo man. I can't quote it enough, man. Isaiah 46:10, declaring the end from the beginning, saying that my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure, man. Cannot quote that one enough, man. Because everything is according to the Heavenly Father's will, whether it be things that happen on the right hand side or things that happen on the left. Well, things, period. You don't have to even say sides. General, period. All right. Everything goes back to the Heavenly Father, period. Right? So it says, nay, but, O man, who art thou that replies against the Most High? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Had not the potter power over the clay, or of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? All right, who's he talking about? Okay, the separation of Israel and Edom. Okay, and what we just mentioned, right? Who took over Egypt at some point? You had Esau take over. Who's the modern day Pharaoh? Esau. Like when you're dealing with Isaiah 19, all right, the Egyptians, okay? Well, those particular Egyptians, talking about Israelites living, in the modern day Egypt, which is Babylon the Great. But you get the point, though, all right? Stemming back to Esau is the point that I'm trying to make. It says, what if the Most High, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction, which are who? The Edomites, man, all right? Especially that chief house, Amalek. He says, remember what Amalek did, all right? I will have war, all right, for generations with these nations, man, okay, until he wipes them out the earth. And that's not going to happen until after he puts them through 1,000 years of hard bondage, slavery, captivity, serving with rigor, and then he's going to wipe them out from the earth. Right, and so be it. It says, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory. All right, which are the Israelites, but mainly, all right, if you want to get really nitpicky with it, it goes all the way back to the elect. It's always going back to the elect, because the Lord does not need to save all Israel to continue all Israel. He just needs his remnant, and that's how he will bring all Israel back, as the scripture have said, my people shall be all righteous. All right, they all shall know me. How is that? If the 2/3 die, okay, because the Lord could. Now he's all powerful, almighty, right? He could just, when he destroyed the 2/3, he can create new spirits after that and never bring those 2/3 back that perished. But that's not what's planned. All right, he has mercy. He's planning on bringing those 2/3 back through the loins of the 1/3. All right, that survived. All right. If we could stop right there and jump right on back, see if they'll let us back over here. Is that Isaiah? Okay, there's something else. So verse 20 says, and Moses took his wife and his sons and set them upon an ass, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of the Most High in his hand. And Yahweh said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand. But I will harden his heart, and he shall not let the people go. And that heart means your mind. Lob in Hebrew means mind. All right. He's going to be bullheaded. All right. He's going to continue and say, I'll let y'all go, and turn around and be an a-hole. All right. That I have a purpose behind that, but that's what he's going to do. Verse 22 says, and thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I will hold on now, but how is that when there's 18 nations? Because the Lord chose one to himself, as we often go and get Deuteronomy 7:6. All right. There's 18 nations on the face of this earth, but the Lord chose one to himself. Right. Israel is my firstborn. Right. Says, and say, I wonder what precepts are there, if any. This was my son. Beautiful. Exodus 19:5. It says, now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. Beautiful, right? Basically the same thing that we would usually read in Deuteronomy 7:6 or Deuteronomy 14:2, right? And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, also said by Peter, right? First Peter, I want to say that's chapter 2, okay? Around 8, 9, somewhere around there, all right? And in holy nation, these are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of who? Israel. Not to all the nations, man. Look, there, look, Deuteronomy 14:1. All right, because we just mentioned that, right? 14:2, right? Ye are the children of the power, Yahweh, all right? Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. All right. And if it goes on, if we get it, all right, it says that ye are, let's just pull it up. We did mention it, didn't we? Here it is, for thou art an holy people unto Yahweh thy power, and Yahweh had chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. Same thing we just read up there in Exodus 19, right? Beautiful, 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 right? There's another one talking about the firstborn, okay? Jeremiah 31:9, they shall come with weeping and with supplications, but I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble, for I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. All right, this is going into, pretty much uh time, I guess the time of giving salvation, really. But we're gonna have that full truth, all right, and get salvation and be taken back to our lands and so on and so forth. Hosea 11:1, when Israel was a child, then I loved them and called my son out of Egypt. Bam. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, because we're reading that right now. Beautiful. We just went into 9. Man, I love Romans chapter 9. Wonderful chapter. We're not going to, as a matter of fact, let's read it. Who are Israelites, all right? Because you got to get verse 3 on this one. You know what? Let's just read verse 4, but you got to get verse 3 going into this one. It says, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises. And this scripture right here, when you go into break this scripture down, it destroys any doctrine out there that's saying that God loves everybody and salvation for all. Because when you go into all these things that we just read could be broken down through the scriptures, and it'll show you that every one of those things goes back to dealing with the same thing. Israel, over and over and over, right? Never another nation, no heathens. Those are the last few verses there. So let's go on back. So Exodus 4 and 22, and thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus said Yahweh, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. All right, and that's one hell of a threat. All right. So it says, and it came to pass by the way in the end that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. And Lord, will you be edified? Because I kind of just went into this random. I was out for a walk. It just so happened the sun went away too. But yeah, so Lord, will you be edified by this? All right, we just rolling the spirit, going off random. All right, getting a little lesson in here, another chapter knocked out the box. So it says, and it came to pass by the way in the end that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. Then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin. So obviously we have a time jump here. So it says, then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet and said, surely a bloody husband art thou to me. So he let him go. Then she said, a bloody husband thou art, because of the circumcision. So obviously one of his sons were left uncircumcised. Okay, and that is part of a covenant, which circumcision is pretty much, you could say, it's universal. We're not the only nation that uses that, but when it comes to us, it's very serious. All right, it's a very specific thing. All right, dealing with the Israelites. Okay, so it says, and Yahweh said to Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses. And he went and met him in the mount of the Most High and kissed him. Now, if you remember, we read that up above. So now it's going back to that same thing, but from, it's like you would see a movie play out. All right. It shows one person, all right, a little scene with them. And then maybe they leave out and go to the tavern somewhere. Okay. And then, something else happened in between. And then it goes back to the other person, all right, that was mentioned. And it shows, them going towards the tavern to meet up with the first person. It's like a movie, man. If you could really sit down and put yourself, like how it's being, how it's written here, you could tell it's almost like in a movie form, man. Okay, because first it was Moses and said that, hey, Aaron is on his way to you now, blah 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 blah, right? And now it's from the eyes of Aaron. All right, let's read it again, man. You can't make it up, man. And Yahweh said to Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses, and he went and met him in the mount of the Most High and kissed him. And this is not talking about some homosexual stuff, right? That goes back to our customs, all right? So it says, and Moses, and I'm once again not like anything on the lips either, right? Period. All right. It says, and Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spake all the words which Yahweh had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. All right. Everything we read up above, those three signs. All right. Actually, I was right. Okay. So let me correct myself again, because I did say the people. And then I corrected myself and I started talking about Pharaoh, because the scriptures go on to talk about, being delivered from Egypt. So yeah, he went and showed the people the signs. I thought I was reading it right, because it was continuation from the last chapter. All right. And Moses was saying, well, what am I supposed to tell the people, like, about who sent me? Who do I tell you? What's your name? So I could tell them who sent me. And then the Lord went on and talk about the signs. All right. So I was right, making sure I was on point though. Okay. And if I wasn't, I was making sure I corrected. So bam. So let's keep going, because we're at the end. It says, and Aaron spake all the words which Yahweh had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed. There we go. You see? Sign 1, sign 2, and sign 3. All right. The sign 1 was a snake. Now, it never specifies whether or not they believed 1 and 2, and then 3 was the catcher, or, was it not 1 and 2 was the catcher? It doesn't really reveal that, but it doesn't matter. All right. But it's beautiful, because I guess the Lord already knew, how hard-headed, or maybe unbelieving, I should say, how the Israelites would be. So he gave 3 signs just in case, right? So whichever sign caught them, all right, they believed. That's what matters the most, right? He gave the people hope. And then he also came up with the name, all right? Yahweh sent me. Bam, here's a sign. Bam, here's another one. You see? It says, and the people believed, and which goes back to their faith, right? And when they heard that Yahweh had visited the children of Israel, and that he had looked, and the people, was it the elders? I believe he called the elders, but whatever the case may be, says, and the children of Israel, says, and that he had looked upon their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshiped, right? So they started praising the Lord. And what do you think they were doing? You think they were calling on Most High Christ bless or some crazy mess like that? Yahweh or Yahuwah or whatever? Nah, man. They were praising Yahweh. Hashem Yahweh Shah, all right? They were praising and calling on the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. All right. Probably, sending up all kinds of prayers, maybe even sang some songs or whatever the case may be. But most definitely they came with the name Yahweh as they praised and worshiped. All right. So that's the end of Exodus chapter 4. Lord, will you edify to next time? Y'all try to go to say shalom.